What's up, David?
Hey, Gobi, what's going on? Nothing much. It's Sunday here. Did some gardening and, getting ready for this call.
Nice. So yeah, I'm in the park today. My kid's doing a little gym class, so we're doing remote. Thanks for being available, and let's get right into it. So something that actually since our last conversation's been coming up, I've been dealing with some health issues, and uh, so when a physical ailment uh, flares up in me, it affects me psychologically as well because I think I'm sort of forced to deal with my mortality. I'm forced to deal with the fact that I might be fragile or not whole or even weak. And even at times, I think uh, habitually I'll start thinking that it's a slippery slope and I'm only going to get worse. And I think what that all gets me to think about is the concept of something that I think I'm becoming more and more aware of, and I'm believing more and more in that disease to me uh, is a manifestation of dis-ease. And what I mean by that, from my own story, is I grew up in a family where fear and anxiety were commonplace. In fact, we learned more uh, from people's fear and anxiety than we did of anything else. There was a minimal positive guidance, always fear and anxiety, and uh, there were also family members that were always on the watch for sickness, either something as simple as getting a cold, or oh my God, do I have cancer, or is this or that the other. So I sort of grew up with this whole idea that there's impending sickness out there, and it's just a matter of time before it fucking inflicts me. So uh, I say all this to say that I honestly do believe that any physical ailment that's not genetic, I guess, that I've suffered has been as a result of years of dis-ease, or what I like to call stinking thinking.
Yeah, it's almost like a hypochondriac, and the
Ding,
reality
ding, 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 ding.
ends up manifesting itself. I haven't had, fortunately, I haven't had to deal with at least any physical disease. My main thing was depression, but that's like purely mental. But one thing that I did have for a while now is back problems. And so I looked up on the internet, different symptoms and where they came from, blah, blah. And eventually I ran into all these holistic websites that tend to relate specific areas of the back, and for that matter, specific areas of the body to specific, issues, I guess, that you might have that are mostly mental. And the back thing was purely from accidents, motorbike accidents, jet ski accidents that I've had before, but it's forced me because of that sensitivity to pay attention whenever my back starts acting up, to pay attention to what's going on. And one of the things for the last couple of years or so is, since I sold my business and now I'm just like kind of living off reserves, and money of course is an issue, when you see the bank accounts dwindling. And so, and of course, anytime I started worrying too much, and you say, oh, you carry the world on your shoulders or you carry the world on your back. Worries when it comes to material things, whether it's safety or money, will often, manifest as some sort of back issue, but different parts of the back actually relate to different topics. So for other areas of the body, I haven't looked into other areas, but I would say that usually a good thing, a good, reflex to have is Google it up. So whatever you have, put that, and I guess holistic healing or meaning, or, try a few different keywords. And as with everything else, probably I would say, just pick up what feels right. Obviously, there's going to be as many viewpoints as different people there are out there, but you'll know when something rings true.
You made me think of one of my favorite quotes that says, "Opinions are like assholes. Everyone's got one."
That's very true.
Yeah. One of the kids is, hello.
Hi.
All right, go back.
Come on,
Go
buddy.
back.
Come on, buddy.
Go back. Yeah, it's, again, the idea of sort of dis-ease or disharmony, I think the more I'm researching and sort of exploring us as being these sort of divine vessels or temples, whatever you want to call it. And, I've read these stories of people who have been on organic food and worked out their whole lives and have never taken drugs or alcohol or smoked, and yet they get these really fucked up, severe physical diseases. And 9 out of 10 times there's a commonality that they were very stressed or anxious human beings at the same time. And I've seen that in myself. I've seen the manifestation of physical ailments. Like I can look. I'm a creative. I direct and produce, and when I'm working, I'm on cloud nine, and I sort of work on autopilot. And I don't know. I could be on a set with 60 people, and I'll be working, and I'll tell everyone what to do, and it's like nothing. It's simple for me. I don't know where it comes from, but it comes from somewhere, not from me. But when I'm not working, the fear and the anxiety and the doubt and am I good enough or I'm a fraud, the voices take over. And I can literally feel the poison running through my body with the anxiety, the inflammation, the sour in my gut and my belly. And it just seems so obvious to me that we are able to create or to tell ourselves either to heal or to fall apart. And I think why it's so important, I think, look, for me and you, again, I'll share just based on our experiences, you and I have been through a lot of fucked up shit in our lives that led us to try to figure out some solutions maybe because we were sick and tired of going through that fucked up shit or putting ourselves through pain and suffering. And I think most people are sort of oblivious to their own power to heal because they're always running like, look, I got a couple of autoimmune diseases. I've been going to some of the best doctors on the planet here in LA, and they have no fucking clue what to do. They're like, all right, well, let's try this. They had me on a treatment for 1.5 years. I just stopped the treatment, and all my blood counts were the same or even got better after I stopped the treatment. So I'm like, well, Doc,
That's crazy.
I'm Doc. For 1 year we've been doing this. He's like, well, this happens sometimes. I'm like, okay, well, if this happens sometimes, then it means that maybe if I can listen to my intuition a little more and hone into myself without the chatter, right? They always say, they say the loud voice is the voice to ignore and go towards the whisper. The whisper is your intuition or the voice of divinity that's sort of more clear. I think we all sort of have an innate power and ability to either heal or manifest. And I think this all goes back to sort of like The Secret, the movie The Secret, the law of the power of intention, be careful of what song you sing because that's the song the universe listens to and that's what it's going to give you. If you're a victim, if you're sick, woe is me. And then, so if that's what you're telling the universe, you're going to keep there's no, it's sort of like physics proves it. To every action, there's an equal or opposite reaction, right? So whatever you're putting out there, you're going to get that back. And I think that's kind of how karma works. But again, going back to disease, I know that I have manifested certain things physically because I grew up with this idea that I was weak or I was worthless. And that eventually, those grooves in my brain that consistently were thinking these thoughts created something physical. So now that I've got a little more awareness and I catch myself when those thoughts come up and I pivot and I go towards something that's a little more, you know what, I'm powerful, I'm healthy, I'm healing, I am, I'm a sentient being, I'm a good person, I'm talented, I'm loving, I'm loved. All the kind of positive affirmations and messages that I'm very happy that at least I have them now, but I wish I had them a lifetime ago because I would have saved myself so much dis-ease. But I guess, better late than never, it's sort
Well,
of,
like you said last time, it's never too late.
it's never too late. It's really never too late. I was talking to a friend a couple of days ago who again was like, I'm in my 50s and I haven't accomplished everything that I thought I should in life. And it's like, there are so many examples throughout history of people who in their 50s, 60s, and 70s. When I used to do sales, when I was a real estate agent, one of the examples they used, there were two examples. One was Sylvester Stallone they used to use. They used to say he got 1,800 no's before finally someone said, yes, you can play Rocky. That was one of them. Then the other one was Colonel Sanders was penniless until the age of 65, where he sold his 9 ingredients and created Kentucky Fried Chicken. Right? So he became a multi-millionaire at the age of 65. It's never too late. It's never too late. And I think, again, that also goes back to dis-ease, because if you start telling yourself, I'm old and I'm falling. My dad did that. My dad at some point checked out, and physically and mentally, he just started deteriorating to the day he died. He completely let go. And I honestly believe, you hear a lot of these stories of people who retire. And, they say the guy quit his job and 6 days later he died, or it's like just some, or, just, there's a lot more to it than I think we have been taught, or that we even know about how powerful we are as beings. And I think again I go back to the dis-ease, because I think fear and anxiety, my wife taught me, fear is false evidence appearing real, which is a great way of looking at it. But I'm sort of excited because, look, even our conversations to me are a manifestation of exploring positivity, growth, and all good things that can come from dialogue. Simple dialogue.
Of course. Well, and also there's, everybody's got a different makeup, and this is something we'll talk about at some point, that I've looked into over the last year. So it's called human design, and which centers define you, your energetic centers, which ones are fixed, which ones are open. And I believe you and I both have a defined throat center, which means that that's one of the ways that we're consistent about our energy. And that's why, they invented psychotherapy. What is a shrink other than someone who asks questions and listens to you? For the most part, they don't give you any answers, and you're doing all the healing by talking. So I think, just unblocking all those stored emotions. I was gonna pick up on what you said earlier, about the fact that if you have these negative emotions or thoughts come up, and if you hang on to them, then they will create disease. I think there's a two-sided thing to this. One of them is, yeah, you don't want to hang on to the pain, because suffering is you hanging on to the pain. Pain is inevitable. You're always going to have, things happen. I mean, people die. My father died as well, and my mother's going to die someday, and everything we know, dies eventually. I think it was, this old Buddha quote where one of his disciples came to him and said, "Buddha, why are you crying?" And Buddha says, "Because my son died." And the disciple was like, wait a second, you're Buddha, you don't cry. It's like, of course I cry, but I just don't hang on to the pain, anymore. When I'm done crying, I'm done crying, and that's that. And a lot of people will hold on to the suffering as a story, as a justification for, perpetuating forward any of that stuff. But the negative emotions, in my experience, it was a two-folded approach. Before I was able to, really start focusing on more positive things and really putting positive energy out there, I actually had to face all the shitty stuff. And we'll also talk about ayahuasca and purging and how it's important. In a way, it's also important to allow that toxic stuff to manifest itself inside your body and feel it, because it's been stored, sometimes at a very deep tissue level, DNA level, energetic level, and it's stuck, and that's what creates those diseases. And so when those emotions and those negative feelings come up, it's important, I think, some people make the mistake of thinking that, focusing only on the positive, and when these things come up, chasing them away, that's positive thinking. And I think, you're talking about these people that, are healthy, they're vegan or whatever, yet they still have all the diseases coming up. And I think it's because, in a way, they're not doing, before you can rebuild the house, you got to take down everything that's crappy. And that breaking down and, facing the mildew and the rust and all that not so pretty stuff, you kind of have to go through the cleansing process before you could build from scratch and focus on the positive. And so I think, I'm not a vegetarian. I'm not nearly ready to be a vegetarian. I don't eat a lot of meat, but it's happened naturally that, I've been drawn to meat less and less. I'll still have chicken. I'll still have a good steak once in a while. And when you see, there's a lot of these vegan people out there. We're not going to make only friends on this podcast, but there's a lot of people out there. They're like Nazis, they really, especially online, they'll say, "Oh, you can't be enlightened. You can't be, a really good person if you still eat meat." And sure, I agree. I'm all for no animal suffering, but at the same time, if I'm going to force myself to become a vegetarian only so I can be, enlightened and then be a pain in the ass with everybody that's not a vegetarian, then what's the point? I think everything that you do, I think, should be natural and in a way, because you want to do it. Doesn't mean it's not going to take effort. It doesn't mean it's not going to create some amount of discomfort. But I think that the main point is being honest with what you've been through, who you are. And if there's crappy stuff inside, the difficult step is facing it and accepting it. And there's a lot of knowledge, actually, that gets released when you accept the pain. And that's an airplane.
Yeah.
And so I think, the first step is really accepting what's there. And this is stuff that I've had my own coach, Lisa Berkovitz, work with me on, just being in the moment, being present, whatever comes up, allow that to happen. And is there a message for you in it? And then once, you're engaged in the cleansing process, which I don't think really ever ends, because I've been cleansing for 3 years now, and I still got a lot in there, I can tell you that much. But it's no longer a big deal. You just gotta accept the airplane.
Gotta accept the airplane.
But so that's that. I think it's really about learning to accept what's there first, and then once you've realized the patterns and where certain things have come from, realize that okay, that was your story. But from now on, that doesn't have to be your story anymore. And it's a conscious choice of not allowing that to happen again. That being said, a lot of people will say, okay, I faced the past, and now, how come all this crappy stuff still happens to me? And again, this comes from my own coach. She calls it ripples of the past. And because there's a delay between the energetic work and the manifestation of events in the 3D world. So even if you've been doing all the right things in the yoga and meditation, and some challenging stuff still comes up, well, you got to realize, you're 54, I believe.
53.
Correct? I'm 53.
Don't make me older than I am, please.
And I'm 42, but you and I have both, accumulated a lot of, negative energy in the past. And so not all of it is clear. And some of this stuff, is going to come up again and again and again and again until you finally, it's like a spiral kind of thing. You go through the same cycle, but somehow you're getting closer to the center every time until that's it. You no longer need to go through that issue anymore. And then what happens is you get taken to another issue, and that process never really ends. But yeah, so I think, it's good to keep, your thoughts on the positive, but it's also good to allow the negative, give it the space to manifest itself, and love it for what it is, appreciate it for what it is, because you wouldn't be who you are. It's like at the gym, they say no pain, no gain. And on an emotional level, emotional pain kind of carves out the heart the same way that physical pain carves out the muscles and makes you a stronger being.
I think you brought something important up. Again, we'll talk about ayahuasca and journeying. We'll do a whole session on that. But about a month ago, I went through my first experience with it, and it was life-changing. And I had some major realizations. And selfishly, I was hoping for spontaneous healing from diseases. But what I walked away from is exactly what you sort of alluded to, where I had some realizations that changed some of my habitual ways of thinking that I had had an entire lifetime. So it sort of felt like I've shifted on a cellular level. And what I know with certainty now is it's going to take a while for that to manifest in the physical. Because I spent 45 years negatively reinforcing fucked up shit on myself. It's going to take a minute for that shit to kind of deprogram, unwind.
Yeah, right.
So, but again, it's a consistent process of reminding myself to be patient, to be loving, to accept, to not judge when negativity comes up. Instead of freaking out about it, I kind of notice it now and I accept it and I go, okay, I see you. All right, that's cool. You can do what you're doing, but let me just shift it a little bit now, and because you're not really doing too much good for me right now. Let me go to a better space. So I feel really lucky that first and foremost for myself that we can have this sort of back and forth, because every time I walk away with a little reminder of how to approach things, so it's kind of cool. And the fact that we can share it, that's even cooler, because I sort of feel if there's one person out there in the universe that can hear something that we've got to share and it would somehow enrich them or help them in the most nominal way, I think this
It's already huge.
It's already huge, butterfly effect. So, yeah, it's all good. All good.
Yep. Here's to hoping at least one person, resonates with what we just shared.
Exactly. All right, well, I guess that's it.
Right.
That's all I got for you today.
Yeah, me too. Enjoy the park.
Thank
and
you.
I guess I'll speak to you next week.
A bientôt.
Ciao.
Ciao.